Hey, y'all. Welcome to the Liberation is Lit podcast, where the power of storytelling meets the force of social change. I'm your host, Tayler Simon. And in this podcast, we believe in the profound impact of stories. And I'm super excited to be here with Jandy Nelson, author extraordinaire. Hey, Jandy, how are you doing today?
Hi, I'm so happy to be here. As I said, this is my very first podcast, so I'm thrilled.
Yes. Well, we hope this is such a pleasurable experience for you.
I know.
Yes. So, Jandy, can you start us off by telling us a little bit about yourself as an author?
Of course. So I kind of came to writing fiction in a circuitous way. I started as a poet like you, and I only wrote poetry my whole life. I thought, okay, I'm a poet. And I went to grad school for poetry. I had a job in publishing as a literary agent for 15 years, and I loved fiction. I was obsessed with narrative, like voice-driven narratives, but I was a poet. And I got obsessed with picture books. And so I really I just love visual art and just the way the poetry and the visuals go together. I was obsessed. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do a low residency program in children's literature. And when I got there, of course, hadn't only written poetry. And so I read poetry, and someone came up to me and said, you know, you should write a verse novel, a YA verse novel. And I was like, what's a YA verse novel? I didn't know there were verse novels since Homer. And so I did a deep dive, did a lot of research, and I had experienced this very intense loss. And this girl just fell into my mind, this young girl. So I wanted to write about her, and she'd lost her sister. And I just imagined her writing these poems and writing them on scraps of paper and on candy wrappers and on barn walls and benches, and leaving these poems all over the house, like out of the house, all over the town, like basically writing to her sister who was no longer there. And I thought, okay, that'll be the novel. It'll be a YA verse novel. And then I started doing that, and the poems are still in the book, but I realized I had to write prose to tie the book together. And that was the only way this young girl was going to come alive. And because I didn't think of myself as a fiction writer and no one would ever read this, so I went for it and I just wrote the novel. And that was how I got kind of tricked into writing fiction. And so I don't think I would have otherwise. I think it was very fortuitous. So that's what happened. And I like to tell that story too, because I didn't write a word of fiction until I was 40. And so I feel like the whole publishing industry, all our society loves the young ingenue, the phenom, and so many amazing books were written, like Dracula. Bram Stoker was 50 and Proust was in his 40s, and all these people. So I like to tell that story so that, you know, I really believe in second chances, third chances, changing your life like at any point. So that's what happened to me anyway. That was the story.
That is so inspiring because I've been trying to write a fiction novel for like the last 2 years. And now I'm thinking maybe I need to write it in verse because
Yeah.
just wrapping my head around just
Yes.
like 50,000 words of fiction or 60,000 words of fiction. I'm
Yes.
like,
You
but
should do that. Is it adult or YA or?
It's probably gonna be adult. It's so the idea is for a horror novel about 3 generations of women who are first with getting whatever they asked for.
Oh, I love
So
it.
it's like based on inspired by my grandmother. She would be like, "I always have to be careful what I say because it might come to pass." And I've seen it from something as little as like, "Oh, it's gonna rain and it's sunny outside," to, "We're going to war."
Oh my God.
Yeah,
So this is
so
a
that
good
kind of
idea.
inspired me. Yeah.
That's a great idea for a book. I adore it. I would pick it up in a second. And then now my old agent mind is like, oh my God, this is a great, great idea. No, really. And yes, do it in verse. I feel like there aren't that many. Like, I think there's like Vikram Seth wrote the book Golden Gate, but that's like the only. Are there other novels in verse for adults? You could be the first.
Um, well, Ellen Hopkins has written a couple for adults. Is that written in verse? Family Lore. I know Elizabeth Acevedo typically writes in verse, and
For
Family
adults
Lore
as
is her
well.
adult
Oh,
novel, but I did an audiobook, so I can't remember
yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
in verse or not, but no, it's not, and I think there's something I feel like for young adults, verse makes thick books less intimidating, and I think for adults,
Absolutely.
we are living through PTSD from studying poetry in schools. So
100%. I know it needs to change. I'm actually just thinking Jacqueline Woodson did Have a Family Portrait. Have you ever read that? It's an
oh,
adult book.
I haven't, but I've read Brown Girl Dreaming, which is technically, I think, young adult, but
Yeah. Yeah.
mhm.
But anyway, yeah, I think you're right. I think that it'd be good for adults, especially in our times right now, to have more poetry in their lives. So,
Yes, definitely. And, speaking of, books, can you tell us about your latest book, When the World Tips Over, and what inspired you to write it, and what do you hope readers will get from the story?
okay. That's 3 parts. Okay, so the book, I feel a little like Rumpelstiltskin because I was sleeping for 100 years because it took me 10 years to write this book. Like, it is basically everything I've ever wanted to write in one book, and so it's this multi-generational saga of a Northern California family, and it's also the story of a mother and daughter who live in this RV basically at the edge of the world. It's a fairy tale, it's a mystery, it's a scrapbook, it's a food memoir, it's like a love letter to California. It's full of family curses and like yours and rivalries and love stories upon love stories, like every kind, queer, straight, familial, platonic. Um, and yeah, so I mean, in more practical terms, it's the inspiration was this house that I would pass all the time when I was going up north to revise my other books. So for years, for basically 7 years, I would pass this house in the middle of nowhere. It was a Victorian house. It looked enchanted to me. It looked like light struck, and I'd always pull over. I was like really drawn to it. And I started to imagine these characters, and would see the kids. I would see Dizzy, who's this like commotion of a girl, young girl, like pulling a souffle out of the oven, and I'd see Miles, who's very like in the book. He's got a lot of secrets. I would imagine him upstairs and Winton with his violin, and so I just started seeing the kids, and then a year would go by, and I'd stop again and traipse around like a criminal, and then I would be like, oh man, maybe like what about the parents? What's their story? And then I was like, well, who built this house? Like, where did this house come from? So took the story back like 100 years. And that's basically how and why the story happened. And the amazing thing is about it is I went back recently when the book was done and the house is gone. It's gone. It's razed to the ground. There's just a field there. And I was like, I was so stunned. I was like, maybe it's in the wrong place. I'm losing my mind. And I called my editor and I was like, you're not going to believe this. The house is gone. And I swear to God, if I hadn't taken so many pictures, I would have thought I invented this whole thing. But then she was like, of course it's gone. It's in the book now. So I liked that. But it was funny. I was telling the story to Ransom Riggs, the writer, and he said to me, but did you go in the house ever? Did you? And I was like, it didn't even occur to me till he said that I should have gone in the house. But anyway, I never did. But so that's the inspiration for the book. And what I hope people take away from it, when I was writing it, I was very much obsessed with, I think every character in the book is just besieged with longing. And I think I was a little bit too when I was writing it. And so I feel like I came through writing it, this idea that like safe harbors found in other people and that there's always going to be joys hidden away in sorrows. And that I was thinking a lot about splendor and how it's everywhere. And so, I mean, those are just what I was thinking about. So I would hope maybe people would come away with some of that, also with a full belly or a hungry belly, because there's so many souffles in the book. And I got obsessed with souffles writing this book.
Oh my gosh. So, are there, like, recipes? I haven't gotten to read it yet, but I'm excited to get to it. Are there, like, recipes in there too?
There's 5 point of view narrators, and one of them is the mother who is a chef. And so she does talk a lot about food. There's a lot of people have told me that they get absolutely starving reading it. And I took a lot of classes. Like I took 3 souffle making classes. I took another cooking class. And so I got really into it. And yeah, so I am actually pretty good at making souffles, which is funny because I'll give you the sun. So took classes. I was very bad at all the art classes because no one Jude are artists, but the soufflés by the end I got pretty good at.
We love a good research on books,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
you
Especially
lived
that
it.
kind. Exactly. I know. I always say I'm like kind of a method author. Like they have method actors. Like I got to know everything when I'm writing.
Yes, and I think that's why I've gotten sucked into the writing process for the horror novel that I'm writing because I'm like, I need to know everything. I was not born in this time, so I need to do historical research and all these how do people talk? What were the smells like? I don't know.
No, totally. I think it's like the best. Well, for me, it's the best part of writing. Like, I love it. And I don't mind. I allow myself to get lost in research because I think ultimately it helps the book. I know that some people say, don't get, a lot of people say just write the book and then do the research after because you can get so lost in research. But for me, I love it. It's like the best, for me, it's the best part. It's just so, it's just another way to really get in the world and to leave this world and just subsume yourself in another.
Mhm. And that is the power of books, right? To experience different worlds that may not be similar to your own or experience a world that is your own, but a little lighter and a little
Exactly.
imaginative of what could be as part of your life. And so that's why a lot of book censorship really breaks my heart. I do a lot of advocacy here in South Carolina.
Mm,
And I know you're an author with a frequently challenged book.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on what we can do to stop book bans and how can readers support you as an author when your book is banned or challenged?
That's so nice of you to say, to even think of that. But so thank you for so much advocacy you're doing because I honestly can't believe the times we're living in. I get either every week, sometimes multiple times a week, either emails or texts from librarians, from students, from kids all over the country saying the book is challenged. I've had a librarian tell me that a kid was reading I'll Give You the Sun. It was literally ripped out of their hands. I know. And it's just so awful. I feel like there was more, like, I wish I had better ideas. I think the things that I think about are if you're politically inclined, running for library boards in especially in conservative communities is amazing. I think if you have kids in school, getting on the school board, even if you don't have kids in school, I think writing letters when you know a book is challenged to the library board, to the school board, saying how much the book means to you. I think all that helps. I actually think, I was at the American Library Association conference this year and talked to a lot of librarians who suddenly are on the front line of this battle. They're like the real warriors and heroes. So I feel like supporting your librarians, um, writing letters of support to them is like, I feel like they kind of need it. Would mean a lot. And also just getting a library card if you don't have one, going to the library, buying banned books. Oh, starting a banned book club. I think those are the greatest things, either for teens or for adults too. I mean, when I was actually looking at the top 10 books that were banned last year, Bluest Eye, which is one of my favorite books ever, is number two. Some of the best YA books ever are on that list, like Perks of Being a Wallflower, which helps so many kids coming out, helps kids with family issues. Looking for Alaska, which it really is an amazing book and helps a lot of kids with grief. And it's just mind blowing to me. But I do think banned book groups are a great idea. I really do. Book groups.
Yes. There's a couple of them here. Well, I'm in Columbia, South Carolina. There's a couple of them. Liberation is Lit always has the books that are banned in South Carolina new for purchase and then use books that are banned elsewhere. So definitely making sure you are providing young people with this material they no longer have access to, but also, like you said, the book clubs to have those nuanced conversations instead of like, oh, these are hard topics or not hard topics. We just want to erase people's experiences. So we
Mhm.
don't want our kids to have access to them. No, this is the real world. Just because they turn 18 doesn't mean it's now all of a sudden they should have
Right.
access to learning about this stuff.
No, it's so interesting. I was thinking about this today that like when I was in ninth grade, I had this teacher and she taught the theme of the class was man's inhumanity to man. And we read like Black Boy and we read Night and and I was thinking about probably all those books would be banned for high school, for a classroom these days. And how incredibly revelatory that class was. It was like I think that opened, I probably is why I'm a writer, was that class, because it really taught me like what you were talking about before, like how you can really step into someone else's shoes and how you can live another life and and it kind of activates you. It makes turns you into turns us all into little activists because you're like, holy shit, look at the way the world is. Who. And I think also obviously it's mirrors and windows for kids to read books like that. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm so glad you have a bookstore, and I'm so glad you have, you sell the banned books and everything. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. I try to do the work in my little lane so I don't get overwhelmed with
Yeah,
everything that's happening in the world.
that's so good. That is so good.
Mhm.
I think that's the way we all have to be. I was actually thinking that too. Like I was looking at my cat this morning, go around the house, like looking for tiny shafts of light to sit in. Like she'll find the tiniest shaft of light. And I was like, that's how we all have to be right now in this time, is just like find that tiny little bit of light because it's pretty dark out there.
Yes, and people say it's always darkest before dawn, but
I hope
it's kind
so.
of
Yeah, I like that.
I don't know. I feel like there's a blanket and like we need to rip the blanket off and then we'll see the sun. It's not really nighttime. It feels a little
Yeah.
manufactured right now.
Oh, I agree with that. It's funny. Did you listen to that podcast between Ta Coates and Ezra Klein? Have you heard that?
Yeah. Oh, well, part of it.
Well, he said this one thing that has really stayed with me, Coates did, about that we don't know what's going to happen. Like, and it just actually filled me with joy and hope. It's like, that's so true. Like, we're all like, tend to go, oh my God, when I'm reading the news these days. And it's like, but who knows? We could have President AOC in 6 years. I know.
Right. And I think what gives me hope in these times right now is not only leaning on community and not waiting for who we thought was a I guess who we thought was qualified to lead a country. I mean, in certain positions, not in others.
Mhm.
But leaning on community to just provide what we all need, especially when a lot of things are getting cut right now. But also thinking ancestors went through a lot worse and like
Exactly.
we are the product of coming out on the other side. So that gives me hope too about I saw a post on Instagram the other day and there's this guy saying like we are the ancestors now. We are the ones that
Oh,
in the
cool.
future they're going to be like, "Oh, these are
Mm.
people who fought for like liberation." So,
Oh, I love that. And yeah, I think that's great. It was funny when I was writing this last book, I was thinking a lot about like generational stuff, and like we hear so much about generational pain. And I was actually thinking in this book so much about generational joy too, that we have yes, it flows through us as well. It's both. It's everything. So yeah, and I love the idea that we are the ancestors now. It's very cool.
yes. And kind of inspired by your cat of like finding the little shafts of light. What keeps you grounded in this work as an author? What are your little shafts of light that you sunbathe in?
Oh my God, I love that. Well, I think for me, what keeps me grounded is the work itself. Like I feel like one of the reasons when I wrote that first book, which I never thought would get published, the reason I was so won over by fiction was it was like I could not believe that I figured out a way to live multiple lives. And of course, it's reading is like that too. But it was so profound. It was like you live this life, or your normal life, and then you get to go into this other world with these people and this everything, this joy, this sorrow, this grief. And it just felt like such an incredible gift. And so I think for me, what grounds me is getting back to that, like blocking out the world sometimes, but also blocking, for me, out the publishing world, the marketplace, the reviews, critics, everything, and just like falling back on story. And Like sometimes when I'm driving around, I like miss my book. And I get this weird impulse, like I wish I could call my book, in a work in progress. So I think getting back to that love, and also for me, it's about reading too, like getting back to the joy. And for me, it's a lot about reading poetry, like getting back to the joy of words being smashed together that don't belong together, and the sparks that come from that. And like just getting back to language and the glory that is storytelling is for me very grounding.
So speaking of that, what have been some books that you've been reading lately?
Oh my gosh. Well, like you, I'm deep in research. So my new book is about it's a generational as well, but it's three periods in San Francisco history and three earthquakes, and then three also seismic kind of love affairs that go along with them. So it's the 1906 earthquake, and that is sort of this epistolary relationship between two women. And then there's in 1989 earthquake, which happens during the AIDS epidemic. It's kind of a love story between a straight girl and a gay guy. And then I say love story, but it's just love story, not necessarily romantic. And then the contemporary story, which is a familial love story between a girl and her mother, two mothers, one dead, one mother figure. So anyway, so I've been doing a ton of research on that, on the AIDS epidemic, on 1906 San Francisco. But just for reading, I started The Loneliness of Sonia and Sunny by Kiran Desai, which is I'm loving so far. I've been reading Frank's The Sonnets by Diane Seuss, incredible poetry book, which actually reminds me how much I love language. It's really incredible. One of my favorite books I've read is Martyr recently by Kaveh Akbar. And it kind of like, don't you feel like I love reading books that were the first fiction books by poets, because the language is so amazing. Like that book a little bit made me want to throw my own computer out the window because the language was so beautiful. It
I
was
was
just,
captivated by the first scene. I was like,
um,
"Oh my gosh."
I know, it's like so great. I recently reread At the Bottom of the River. Have you ever read that? The Jamaica Kincaid? Oh, she wrote
Well,
it
now I
when
need to add it to my list.
you will love it. You will absolutely love it. When I taught poetry, I would teach second story in that, because and just say to, dig a hole in your life and fill it, because that's what she does with the language of your youth. And oh my God, this story is incredible. And as a poet, you're gonna like adore it. It's amazing. So that's something I go back to all the time when I feel like I'm stuck with my language. I'm stuck in any way. It's very helpful. What else did I like recently? The best YA book I've read in a long time was how it feel what's it called? Helena Fox's How It Feels to Float. Have you read that?
Ooh, no, I
Oh
have
man.
not.
I don't know if you like YA, but it is
I
unbelievable.
love YA.
Okay, I'm glad. It's an incredible book. Again, the language is stunning. The interiority is amazing. She's a very good writer. And it's interesting because it's about mental challenges, but it's kind of really never named. And you're just really inside this character. It's very beautiful. I really loved it.
I have all of the books that we're talking about that I'm gonna add to the show notes and the description, so everybody else's TBR can get as blown up as mine.
Again,
So,
that makes me happy.
yes. So my last question for you today is, what advice would you offer listeners who wanna make a positive impact in their community?
Well, that's interesting. So often I'm asked about like advice for writers and stuff like that, not so much this. And I think, well, again, I think at the bare minimum, everybody needs to vote. Everybody needs to show up and speak out if there's rallies and things like that. I feel like on a more like sort of spiritual level, though, it's more like what we were talking about before. I think personally, it's very important these days to turn away from your screens and to go out and to like buy books at Liberation is Lit, and to go, buy books at your local bookstores, have coffee in your local coffee shop, and, get to know your neighbors, be kind to your neighbors, be aware of your neighbors, especially if they're immigrants in this time. Like, I just think find your shafts of light, like the cat, and like write your stories if you're an artist. And, if make your painting, do things for yourself that bring you joy. And, it's funny this is actually advice I do give writers, because it was given to me by Edmund White. I was studying with him in grad school, and he said, always remember to curb towards joy. And I loved that. And he kind of meant it as, okay, you're alone in your room. You're like, oh my God, I'm so lonely. My life is passing me by. I'm typing, but like all my friends are at the beach and here I am alone writing. And so you can tend to get gloomy. And he was like, so just remember that sometimes writing is very lonely and gloomy. And so you might want to curb towards joy. But I think about it all the times in terms of life and almost as a radical act, just especially in times like this, curb towards joy. Like you were saying, lift that blanket and peek out at the sun, you know?
Yes. I love that curve towards joy, and it
And
kinda reminds me of, like, the arc of justice, the the
yeah, ends toward,
yeah, bends towards justice. I
yeah.
can't remember the
Right.
yes,
Yeah. Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that I still believe that. And I think that the arc of just is still bending towards justice. We're just in a loop right now. So hopefully, that's what I hope anyway.
We just need more of us pulling down to bend it towards justice right now, because
Exactly.
there's a lot trying to pull it the other way.
Exactly. Just pull that damn thing.
Yes,
Ugh.
yes. Well, thank you so much again for this conversation. Where can people find you and keep up with your work?
Well, thank you so much. It's been a real joy and pleasure talking to you. You can find my books in bookstores, hopefully. I'm on most everything. I'm still I skulk on Twitter, on X, because I have a bad habit of that and I have to see how bad things are. But I'm mostly on Instagram, occasionally on Facebook, but mostly on Instagram these days, I would think. But I'm not that great at social media, but I do post book stuff there, and you can DM me if you want to say hi.
Yes, and I will link that in the show notes as well. And thank you again, Jandy. This was such a great conversation,
Yeah.
and you're basically a pro at the podcast recording game.
Oh, sure, my God, my first. Well, thank you for being
Yes.
so kind on my very first one. Okay, good
Yes,
luck with your
and
writing, and write a verse novel. That's so amazing. And even if whatever it
thank
ends up
you.
being, I love the idea of it. That's a killer idea.
Yes, I am so excited. I just need to get words down.
Good. Yeah. Lock yourself in the room.
Yes. Well, thank you again. And thank you, listeners, for being part of the Liberation is Lit podcast. If you have stories you want to share, want to suggest any topic, or just want to connect, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Liberation is Lit, or visit our website, liberationislit.com. If you enjoyed the episode, please consider leaving a review. And remember, your voice matters. And through the lens of stories, we're going to make a difference in the world. Until next time.
Woohoo! I love that. That was so good. Okay, bye.